friends and book lovers, welcome. Today we are going to be discussing The Well of Ascension, obviously, by Brandon Sanderson. I recently finished this book and I had some thoughts, so I thought I would do a spoilery book chat, book discussion. So this entire thing is going to be spoiler filled. If you haven't read The Well of Ascension and you don't want to be spoiled, I suggest that you go right now and read The Well of Ascension, finish it, and then come and watch this video. And then maybe you can share your thoughts with me when you finished it. But for those of you that have read it, and I think that's pretty much like 98.5% of BookTube that's read The Final Empire, so most folks have read it. This is just my thoughts on it. I buddy read this with Andrew over at Get Right On In, and he had some thoughts on it too, and I'm sure like our discussion influenced my thinking, but I really wanted to put down like just what I thought of it, general comments, things I liked, like things I really loved, things I really didn't like at all, and maybe other thoughts. So I would love to know if my thoughts or my conclusions maybe are like correct, or maybe they're not correct depending on the Hero of Ages and how that book's gonna go, because I have no idea. I welcome discussion and I welcome thoughts, and I just welcome like hearing other people's thoughts or what they disliked and liked. So if you have any thoughts that are specific to The Well of Ascension, please don't give me spoilers for Hero of Ages, because that would break my heart because I haven't read that yet. But that are specific to Well of Ascension, please leave them down below, and even thoughts on Final Empire, since I've obviously also read The Final Empire. So let's get into it. I'm gonna start off with general comments, just things like overarching in various parts of the story that like I would just general feeling. I really love this book. This is not a review, but I think I gave this one a 5 stars. I don't know if I liked this one or loved it more than Final Empire or not. I thought Final Empire was like a really great, well-contained story, but it was nothing like revolutionary. But it was really well done, and it was really compelling, and it was really fun to read, and I really enjoyed my time there. And I would definitely reread that book, so I know that it's going to be like one of those books that I'm probably always going to want to reread because it's just so fun. But I love Well of Ascension, and because it features and centers around like one of my main characters. Obviously it centers around another favorite character of mine, but my favorite character being Ellen. It's just so satisfying to have that story and to have that arc. As a general comment then, I think Ellen's arc where he finds his power and his voice and his command was really, really great to read. So his interactions with Tindwyl and his growth in a general way was amazing. Vin's growth in a general way was great as well. I thought that the relationship between Ellen and Vin was really telling for their own arc. Their relationship kind of helps them along, and to be honest, I was really surprised by the fact that there was romance in this book. But getting back to what I was saying, I was really surprised to see romance in The Well of Ascension to such a degree, and to have like relationship discussions in this book. And everyone that I talked to about that was like, well, did you read Warbreaker? Of course I've read Warbreaker, and there was obviously romance there, but I didn't think that romance was something that I would find in Brandon Sanderson books in general. Not that it's a bad thing. Of course I enjoy romance in my books, and I found this one to be enjoyable too, but I was just really surprised. I didn't think we were gonna have a strong-ish romance subplot. And I mean, it was not the main focus, but it definitely lended to the story and to the character arcs, especially Vin's character arc, which I thought was like really interesting, because that portion of it is really relatable in a sense. So the whole, she doesn't want to get married, but then she's like considering it, and then she has to choose, and it's just an interesting arc that I think a lot of people, female, male, non-binary, can relate to. It's a really interesting situation to have to go through in life, and I think people could relate to that. The other thing is that I remember receiving a lot of comments before jumping into this of, oh, this one is really slow, you might not like it, just get through the first half. And when I started this book, I didn't feel as though it was slow. I just felt that it wasn't really action-packed. Like The Final Empire was really action-packed. There was a lot happening, there's a lot of different situations, there was battles, there was a lot of exchanges, and this one it was more like psychological and character-driven building. There was a lot of political commentary in terms of how to build a great government, and there was a lot of theological commentary, especially in terms of Kelsier being like a god, which I guess was his like point by dying, and Vin being like part of that new religion, and Sazed as a keeper of religions. Like there was a lot of discussion around faith, but I didn't find it intrusive. I found it really interesting and applicable to the story, because there are so many moments that feel hopeless, and then obviously we have like the whole cavalry coming to save the day, which is Vin, which I really like that trope, so I didn't mind it, but I could see if someone doesn't like that trope, it can be a little bit too easy. but I still felt like the stakes were high enough where it was enjoyable. At times it felt easy, but it was mostly enjoyable for me. I also really liked Tindwell's arc. I was sad to see her pass away at the end. I didn't think that, or I didn't get the sense that she was going to become a main character later on in the series, so I wasn't surprised to see her pass on. I honestly thought that Sazed was also going to die in this book, but he didn't. I like Sazed, but I think, I mean, obviously, and it's very obviously done, the fact that he's like a religious keeper or a keeper of religion or all the different religions, and then he has like a loss of faith at the end because Tindwell dies and he's just like, why is this happening? It's gonna be such an interesting thing to look at in Hero of Ages. I don't know if we look at that in Hero of Ages, but that whole loss of faith is a trope, or I don't know, a theme that I didn't think we were gonna see. I just hadn't imagined that to have been a theme, but I'm really intrigued at it. Like, I don't think I've had a loss of faith theme in a fantasy novel like that before in such a obvious way. So I liked that arc, even though obviously I didn't want Tindwell to die, because they were becoming so cute together, and I loved their gradual openness and their gradual intimacy and that sweet slow burn. It was really wholesome, and it was really sweet, and it was really thoughtful. It was really like emotionally provoking, I guess, for me, even more so than Vin and Ellen, because Vin and Ellen, they're young, they're vital, but Tindwell and Sazed are more like calm and older, and it's like a more mature, sweet love, and I thought that was so great. I loved Tindwell's like realization of Sazed as a person. Like, he is rebellious for their people, and at first she kind of criticizes him for it, but then she kind of comes to realize, or maybe all along she realized, but for me it seemed as though she came to realize that Sazed was like really a hero and a great person, and that he broke the rules, and that was just maybe something that other people should do also, to break the rules when it seems like the right thing to do so, even though it's going against certain things at the time. And I loved her realization of who Sazed was as a person, and also his coming into his own strength and his own power and his own convictions, standing in his own convictions. And I don't know if that's going to carry on, or I don't know if I picked up on it too strongly and it really wasn't him growing, but to me it felt like Sazed had a tremendous amount of growth and then a loss of faith at the end. And I really like him as a character. I think he's great. I love the advice that he gave to Vin and to Ellen about the relationship. I thought it was so cute and strange that they were going to him for relationship advice when obviously he's not a relationship expert or has really been in any himself, but they just see him as this expert or this wealth of wise knowledge that they go to him for everything. And in fact, his wisdom was really great and really helpful. It was just so cute, those parallels between him giving advice on relationships and then Ellen and Vin and their relationship, which is not at all the point of the story, but the characters grew so much in a relational way that it was really interesting to look at the relationships and how they impacted like the character's core. So like Sazed's faith, Vin's strength, Ellen's power, Ellen's relationship with Tindwell, as well as he becomes more kingly and more in command, and how she pushes him in the way that she thinks will help him. And though it seems kind of harsh and cruel, it's always like a test, and it's always a way to push Ellen to become more commanding and to have that sense in himself. So I really loved how all the character interactions happened. I thought that was really great. I thought Breeze was great. I want to call him Breezy, but obviously that's not his name. I really liked Breeze's character. I was a little bit confused at the end where he kind of hid, but then I guess it makes sense with his like juxtaposition of being able to soothe other people, but maybe becoming so overwhelmed that he's just immobilized by his overwhelmedness. So that was like a really interesting parallel as well. There's so many different themes and different parallels among all the action happening in this book that it was a lot of food for thought. And so I am taking like a small break between I get into Hero of Ages, because I have so much to think about in this novel that I want to make sure that I digest it properly before I go into the next one. I did feel like in this novel the stakes were high. I didn't think that they were super high, because I knew at some point that we weren't going to lose obviously Ellen and Vin, and those were the two people that I really didn't want to die, so I was never too afraid of characters being cut off or dead. Even though there were high stakes, I think that it could have been even higher staked. It was still too safe. We kind of lost Dachshund and Clubs, which I felt fine with, as cruel as that sounds, because I didn't feel emotionally attached to them. But had we lost Ellen or Vin, I would have been devastated, because I'm now very emotionally attached to these characters. There's a couple things I didn't love, and the first one being Ellen becoming a Mistborn at the end. I really didn't like that he became a Mistborn. It just seemed like a little too convenient and easy. He's now king, and he's commanding, and he has the personality for leadership, and now he's also a all-powerful Elemencer. I don't know, and I don't think he's gonna be more powerful than Vin. I think the Vin will still be the most powerful, but it just seems like a little too convenient that now that he's gained all of this charisma and command, that now he's a Elemencer, and I don't really even understand how he became an Elemencer completely. Like, he swallowed the metal bead and all of a sudden he's able to heal himself and become an Elemencer. Is kind of like this little newborn hero, and Vin has released this great evil into the land. And I don't even understand Vin's commentary about, oh, well, now we know where the first Elemencers came from. Like, how did that metal bead's power get embedded into your genetic DNA to then pass on to further generations? I don't understand that. I don't know that I'm supposed to in this novel. It's probably something for Hero of Ages, but I don't understand that. I also found Straff to be a lackluster character. I found him to be very surface level, a little too, like, I don't know, predictable. He just wanted the ATM and that's all he kept saying. There was nothing more to his story or to his character, and I thought that was a little boring. The only thing that was interesting about Straff was Zane, and Zane was a really interesting character. I still don't understand the God voice. I don't know if that's his consciousness picking up in a really strong way the deepness, and that was just his interpretation of God. But it was interesting to me how Sazed, with being the keeper of all religions, that Zane was just like, this is God, like overarching God. That was just like a really strange thing to happen when we're discussing the diversity of religion in this book as well, or like how many religions there are in this world that they've been able to keep. But I really didn't like Straff's character. I thought the only thing that elevated Straff's character was the fact that he was like Ellen's father, which was kind of interesting, but not really. And the fact that he had employed Zane, who I found really interesting. And I was kind of sad to see Zane go. I didn't think that it was necessary for him to be killed off, because he was a really interesting, kind of complex, layered character that we didn't get to kind of understand what all was going on in his head. Maybe that will be explained in Hero of Ages again, the voice that was talking to him, but since he's not there to comment on it and nobody else knew about this voice or this madness, then I'm a little confused as to like what it was, and I'm a little worried that that's going to be like a loose end that's not tied up, in which case I think that would be sad, because I love getting those things explained. I also at first didn't like Alrian's character, but I really grew to like her because I found her to be quite like dignified and honorable, and I loved just her like brash rebelliousness, but in the most like cute, noble, kind of ditzy way. So I really enjoy her character, and I'm hoping to see more of her in Hero of Ages, because I think she adds like a level of levity in the series itself, and I really do enjoy that kind of humor, because it does kind of break the tension a little bit in the sense that it's just ridiculous and funny, and I enjoyed a character like that amidst all the very important, very severe things that were happening. And I've talked about the things that I've loved. Like, I loved Vin's journey, I loved Ellen's journey. I didn't know Sanderson had like this relationship growth character arc in him until I read the little romance, and everyone was saying that yes, you know, Sanderson does put romances in his book, especially if they help with character growth, which I feel like they did in this book in a big way, and I was so happily surprised by that, because I think obviously relationships and things like this are very important, especially in human growth. So in character growth, it would only make sense that that would be the same thing. I also love the epigraphs and the prophecy. I love a good prophecy in a book. I love the epigraphs, and I love the mystery of like, why was that last sentence ripped out? We've already got it memorized. Like, what was the point of that being ripped out? And the Miss Wraith helping Sazed realize that that last sentence is actually wrong. The deepness changed it, and it's just, gosh, it makes the deepness so sinister and incredibly intelligent that you're dealing with now, like, I guess, a villain that's so powerful and so intelligent that it can change people's memories and mind, and it can go that consciously or that deep into consciousness. I think that I'm gonna have such a good time reading Hero of Ages just to figure out how this deepness came about and what it means and what it does and like what it actually is, because right now we think it's the mists, but we're not really sure, or we're sure it is the mists, but I'm not entirely convinced that that's the full scope of the deepness. So I am excited to see kind of where this goes. But I love the epigraphs and I love the prophecy, and that twist at the end was just like mind blown. Like, I'm sure it's not mind blowing to anyone else now, but at the time of reading it, since this is my first read, I was mind blown. And I will comment that I still don't understand the beginning portion when Sazed was in the village and he was watching people die by the mist and becoming cannibals. Like, the entire cannibalistic aspect felt like it got left behind somehow. I'm interested to see if that's going to come back, because I feel like it will. The way Sanderson writes, he kind of ties up things and he really understands all the different elements and hints in his stories and where they're going to go. So I'm curious to see where that ends up and if that comes back into our story, because I feel like that was a loose end that was kind of let off, unless I missed something. And if I missed something, let me know in the comments below, because I would love to know what it was, because right now it feels like a loose end. Those are the capacity of my thoughts for this. I don't know if this video is going to be really long or really short when I edit it down, but I just wanted to discuss that and get opinions of other people, maybe like other discussion points that maybe I didn't discuss or that are really interesting that I didn't mention, because this book is just really great to talk about. I've had such a good time talking about it with Andrew, and I've had a good time talking about it with other Sanderson lovers on Discord chats and things like this. Overall, I mean, the book is a 5-star for me. I loved it. I would reread the first 2 books so far, and hopefully Hero of Ages is amazing and that I will want to reread just like the trilogy in itself. I know that some folks don't love Brandon Sanderson's utilitarian writing style, but I really find it very accessible, and I find it really easy to understand the story and the characters and the obvious things that are happening. So I love this. I will be rereading this, and I hope that you guys also enjoyed Well of Ascension and have interesting points that maybe I didn't pick up on my first read. So comment below any thoughts or opinions or points that you have for Well of Ascension or Final Empire. But again, please don't put any spoilers for Hero of Ages, because I don't want to be spoiled yet, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And that's it for this video, y'all. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. That really does help my channel. And if you like this content and you want to see more content from me, please don't hesitate to subscribe.